Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope you all got your Kentech coffee. Kentech didn't pay me to say that. So, good morning and welcome to the Routing Security SIG. Probably first session in person after APNIC. Yes, it is. Not probably. It's been a long time. Good to see all of you. Good to see some familiar faces. Good to see some not so familiar faces. So if you are new to this Routing Security SIG, this is relatively new SIG, which is Special Interest Group. We talk about anything related to routing and security and everything in the middle. So my name is Aftab Siddiqui, just for the introduction. I am the current chair. With me, I have my co-chair, Dr. Rima, who's online, and another co-chair sitting here with me, Afif Abbas. So she will be taking care of the agenda from now on. So Afifa, over to you. By the way, we do have only 1 hour slot, and we have a lot of content. So if you have any questions, please, you can ask in brief possible way, but you can still ask questions. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Aftab Bhai. Good morning, everybody. Loving the energy in the room, looking everybody refreshed after the morning coffee. So I would be directly going to the agenda. So the first speaker for our Routing Security SIG is Terry Switzer. You all know him by now. He is an APNIC Community trainer, and he will be speaking on status of RPKI in Australia and New Zealand. So over to you, Terry.
Cool. So good morning, everyone. Hopefully you're sufficiently caffeinated and awake. I think I'm 5 shots in on the espresso already. So if I start speaking too fast, just slow down, Terry, and we'll be good. So obviously, being the routing SIG, I don't need to explain RPKI, ROA, ROV, and so on, which is great. But I will need to explain what we did with this particular study. Now, I wore the red shirt today because this was me playing red team. So in cybersecurity, that is, I'm the aggressor. So I was doing interesting things with invalid address space. So as usual, this is one of those times where I'm doing a gig for the Internet Society. So Aftab, thank you again. So that was the second report I got to do for these guys. Now this is final, it's online. You can use the bit.ly link to go find the report and have a look. But let's get into it. So, why? Why are we looking at how far invalid address space gets used on the Australian and New Zealand internet? Well, for one thing, our government's recently decided that anything internet related is critical infrastructure, which sort of gives them a license to be a little bit proactive in our direction, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depending on how you feel about that. Of course, we still have the usual suspects when it comes to routing security incidents. We still have route hijacks, we still have leaks, and so on. So the uptake of ROA and ROV in that framework of RPKI is important. So what we did, we examined a very specific set of domains. We went to their websites, we made connections to them, and we generated a lot of data. So we ended up with 1 million domains in the database, which means it's a fairly extensive database of, various parts of what we call the Australian and New Zealand internet. You'll see .pk up there. You always have a control set when you do something. So we did a lot of testing against .pk as well, just to make sure we got our methodology correct. So again, we recorded 2.3 million trace routes. Now, trace routes in this context are important because we want to know how far things get on the internet when you're doing a penetration test. So our methodology was really simple. You had a big sample of domain names. get their A records, because we're only testing from IPv4. And then we do a couple of very specific DNS queries. So we look for their bare A record and their www.a record. Then we try connect. So obviously we're going to go for TCP port 443, which is HTTPS. But the source is important. We had two sources. One source, the address space, had an established valid ROA. And then we had another source, which we specifically made sure was globally an invalid ROA. So in theory, no one should have been letting the invalid source connect to it. In theory. Not so good. Actually, let's have a look at the pointer. So I always promise never to single anyone out with this list, but today I will, just so I can. So we can see a few interesting ASNs here. Everyone knows who 13335 is. So consistently, people like Cloudflare, Microsoft, okay, and even our good friends from Amazon consistently didn't let invalid address space connect to any of their websites. There's many, many ASNs on this list where not only did they let the invalids connect, the invalids were more successful connecting to their websites than the valids, which was also incongruous as well. So yeah, and of course, the big feature here is we didn't just see traffic in the trace routes from real address space, we saw a lot of bogons. So there's people out there who really aren't even filtering their outbound traffic for their internal private address space, which is also very bad practice. So we have a specific case study. So I live in Brisbane, Queensland, and my state government has a very specific portal called qld.gov.au. And for some reason, the ROA doesn't seem to work properly for their address space when we look at it from international sources. And it's probably low quality data. It was actually low quality data, but we eventually got to the bottom of why that was happening. When you do an atlas test against this particular website, it gets filtered somewhere on the way. Turns out the Queensland government think it's a great idea, but never let anyone connect to their portal outside of Australia. So every time you test it, the only time you succeed is if you're actually down the road from the website. So yeah, Phil's laughing, he likes that one. Security through obscurity. One of the worst security strategies you can employ ever. And again, you can see no successes, trace routing from all over the world, doesn't get there. If you want the raw data for that probe, just make a note of the Atlas RIPENet link and you're good. So what's come out from all this process on the side is some interesting new policy from our friends at cyber.gov.au. Oh, by the way, in the data set, if you do actually get to have a look at it, you'll find that cyber.gov.au is accessible from invalid ROA address space. But they also have all these recommendations saying to do filtering. So it's the usual set of RFCs in their recommendations. And this is part of the cybersecurity framework for Australia. They're actually now telling people, go and sign your routes. They're not saying you must, they're just saying it's a good idea. So we probably want them to up the ante at some stage and say, hey, maybe you could actually do some of this instead of just us suggesting it politely. So we'll get them there eventually. But this is basically everyone who's lobbied either NIST or CyberGov or others are finally getting the message through that we need some sort of security suggestions, frameworks, maybe even rules and regulations that actually make this happen. So, in summary, I brought this up the last time I did the talk. I got a bit of kickback from a few members in the audience because I'm making suggestions there, some of them are not prepared to do. But one thing I find interesting, if you're multi-homed, technically, once you're running ORV, you can't accept 0/0 or :/0 from a peer because it won't ROV. Yet there's a lot of networks out there who seem to accept the default route from certain peers no matter what. And that gives invalid address space a pathway through the network on the outbound. Because if there's anything that your trace routes have told us in the data, the asymmetric nature of that traffic is extreme. Like we saw hop counts going past 60 and 70 in some cases when we did the checks with Pakistan, and that was amazing. Remember these circular routes? We saw some circular routes which were literally going around the world. They must have been following all these illegitimate default routes that were sitting in routers everywhere. So, thank you. And I hope I got through in 10 minutes. So quick questions, anyone? Name and affiliation.
Barry Green, Akamai. Terry, the methodology you use to kind of explore that, have you documented that so others can kind of repeat? Because that's sort of like exercise of taking a small team, showing that.
I'll put the code on GitHub in a private repo, and I would, I'm happy to release that with permission from ISOC, because the entire data set and all the code is basically property of the society. So AFTAB's probably the best person to ask. Yep, there you go.
You had mentioned there's something on the slides about does hot potato routing still work? I didn't see the, sorry, could you just explain on that? I don't see the connection between hot potato routing. Because hot potato is used for one way. It may be a different hot potato on the way back.
Yeah, so hot potato you'll find is something that often happens between service providers who are on, they're on multiple PNIs and geographical areas that are on multiple IXPs. And what they'll do is they'll preference the exchange route next to them. So you'll have ISP A on exchange X, ISP B on exchange Y, and vice versa. And what they'll do is they'll dump the traffic straight on the exchange next to them and let the other party take that route on their network. The other party says, oh, I've got you on the exchange, I'll dump it the other way. So it's just an economic means of shifting the cost. So dumping it quickly on an IXP means the other chap has to carry it on the network to the destination.
No, my question is, how is that related to ROV? To the validation of your route origins. How is hot potato related to that? Either I'll accept your route or I won't accept your route.
Well, if you're not doing ROV, you will accept the invalid route, first of all. That's the first case. The other case is if you're on, and this is very common on PNIs, some PNI contracts I've seen have completely open two-way routing. They don't care what goes down the pipe. That's also an issue. So by the time you've got some of those policies, hot potato running and so on, and people leaking routes and people not doing ROV, it becomes trivial for this traffic to find a way.
So let me try to understand. You're saying that the pressures to do hot potato means that as a network engineer, I might be told by the commercial side, do not do ROA validation on this particular link because it's a PNI.
They could do, yes.
Okay.
Afifa.
No further questions from online as well. So thank you so much, Terry. And with that, I'll be introducing our next speaker, Dr. Johnson. I think he'll be presenting online. He will be speaking on IPv6 extension header on routing security. So Dr. Johnson, you can just turn on your camera. Okay.
Hello. This is Johnson Yu from China Future Internet Engineering Center. Can you hear me and listen to me?
We have shared slides on the screen. Can you see it? We are able to hear you.
Okay, I will share my screen.
You can share it now.
Okay. Can you share, see the screen I shared?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Good morning, everyone. This is Haisheng Yu from China Future Internet Engineering Center. You can also call me Johnson. You know that the development of IPv6 is the general trend, but the development of IPv6 is not smooth. There are many reasons for this. I would like to express my opinion from the influence of IPv6 extension headers. So the title of the speech I bring to you today is IPv6 extension headers in routing security. My topic is divided into 3 parts on performance of IPv6, potential stress of extension headers, and considerations and suggestions. First, I will introduce the definition of performance. The first is the reliability of the protocol. Are all collection attempts successful? Are we observing higher collection failure rather in rates in one protocol or the other? It's middleware that drops IP packets based on the IP protocol deployed on the network path. The second is the round trip time. Even if the same two endpoints are involved, one protocol may use different network paths than another. So there are 3 IPv6 performance challenges. The first is that the IPv6 RTT improving, but still have 2.5 milliseconds higher than IP version 4. I think there may be 3 factors leading to IPv6 RTT improvement. The first is the connectivity between middle AS and the targeted domestic AS, and the length of the middle AS are the dominant factors that cause the difference in RTT between IPv4 and IPv6. The second is the device performance, and the third, I think, is the extension headers used in IPv6. And the second challenge is the IP packet loss rate likely higher. By research, we know that the packet delay does not affect the value of packet loss rate. But if packet delay of a path is large, packet loss rate of that path is more likely to fluctuate over time. The third challenge is the TCP failure rate higher. From the picture, we know that the good news is the TCP failure rate is becoming lower and lower every year, but it is still higher than the IPv4. So second, I will introduce the potential threats of extension headers. First, I will introduce a comparison between the IPv6 and IPv4. In some respects, IPv6 is designed to be a more processor-friendly protocol than IPv4. In particular, IPv4 headers are variable lengths, while IPv6 headers are fixed lengths. This is very helpful. It also organizes its options so that the transit routers doesn't even need to try to pass options that are only relevant to the destination node. In other respects, IPv6 presents a bigger challenge than IPv4. IPv6 has more options due to its great scalability. The IPv6 header chain can get quite large and can be large enough to trigger some of the above problems when the headers exceed the capability of faster memory for the forwarding engine to store them. This is IPv6 6 extension headers list and the execution orders. There can be 2 destination extension headers and only 1 other at most. Exception for hop-by-hop extension headers. Others are only processed at their destination point. And the execution order suggested following the order in the list. Now we will introduce the potential threats of IPv6 extension headers. Extension headers, other than the hop-by-hop option headers, are not processed, inserted, or removed by any node in the middle. The delivery path of the packet until the packet reaches the node. So the problem of threat is that shouldn't the firewalls include the state and the stateless, stateful and stateless, check them. But the destination node must accept and process the extended headers, any orders and any number of the occurrences in the same packet. So the problem of threat is that if the extension header is too complex, it will put a lot of processing pressure on the destination node agent. And the unlimited number of extension headers is a big problem too. For example, the unlimited number of options for hop-by-hop extension headers. So it is recommended that these headers appears in order and there is also one problem is that some people will use extension headers to exchange information, interactive information, and it cannot be detected. So if you want to solve it, you need to throw away the unknown extension headers, which means that you need to detect the extension header, which does not conform to the protocol. And other people maybe send their packets with lots of extension headers. The extension header chain itself is fragmented, and it will overwhelm the target node. So should we discard all IPv6 fragment? Because in the IPv6 packet, when a hoster fragments an IPv6 datagram, it must include the entire IPv6 header chain in the first fragment. And the outlier header must be included in the first fragment too. So this is a big issue for the fragment extension header. Here we are use 2 examples to introduce the extension header problem. We will use the hop-by-hop and the fragment extension header. The hop-by-hop extension header is often discarded because it needs to be processed by the control plane, creating a risk of DOS attacks on the control plane. But as network requirements evolve, it is often necessary to use hop-by-hop, such as these options listed. For example, path M2 discovery need a hop-by-hop function. So it is suggested process the hop-by-hop by this procedure. Then we will introduce the development of IPv6 fragment extension header. This study was done by Jeff Hudson on April 23, 2021. In 2017, result measured an IPv6 fragment drop rate for TCP packet at 21% point, which promotes the challenging conclusion that whatever the reasons, the conclusion is here is unavoided. IPv6 fragmentation is just not a variable component of the IPv6 internet. So what do we see in 2022? The bottom line answer is that the current average drop rate for IPv6 fragment packet is 6%. Obviously, this is a considerable improvement over a relatively short period of time. This is the reason for IPv6 fragment extension fragment loss. Now I will introduce the consideration and the suggestions. First, I will introduce why is the usage of IPv6 extension headers low. I think here is the reason. First, the extension headers requires complex processing and becomes a potential DOS carrier. Since extension header is a DOS carrier, network processor operators deploy access control list to drop packet contains extension headers. Since network operators deployed ACL that drop packet contains extension headers, network engineers no longer define new extension header applications. With network engineers no longer define new extension headers, there is little incentive to fix the implementation issue that made the extension header a DOS carrier. And it becomes a stranger cycle. So the result is a battle between the flexibility of TLVs and the extension headers with the fixed list of chips. And processor trade-offs. On the left, you have general purpose processors. And in the middle, we have a couple of NPU variants. And at the far end of the spectrum, we have the pipeline processor. So as our router's flexibility decreases, its efficiency increases. The trick for vendors is to balance cost and the performance. So here is my suggestion. The forwarding decision must fit in the key data, and we must fix head length, make passing easier. And we should use an established headers in a lower way instead of inventing a new one. And we must manage header size. We should determine the order in which extension header appear. Let pipeline processor pass the packet before starting any lookup, and avoid any additional direction inserted into this passing process. And we should use an established header in a lower way instead of inventing a new one. Since there is likely to be hardware support for extension headers, it is desirable when possible to use an established header in a lower way instead of inventing a new one. And we should secure the control plane. Once the packet is received by the network devices, the extended options header should not be sent directly into the control plane, as these options may not be specific to the control plane. Extended options headers that should not be processed by the control plane should not be sent to the control plane, as this would potentially cause a DOS attack. Packets carrying HBH forwarding options should remain in the forwarding plane rather than being sent directly to the control plane. Packets carrying hop-by-hop control options should be sent to the control plane. And a simple and effective method is needed to distinguish the two types of hop-by-hop options. That's all. That is my presentation. Thanks all of us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. Any questions from the audience? Barry.
Barry Green from Akamai. Thanks for bringing this up again. Maybe a quick question to put everybody in context. How many people here run and touch networks? Anybody here who runs and touch networks, I have responsibility, should be having conversations with your vendors on how they handle extension headers. Because what he points out to the lack of fixed headers is extension headers is one of the easiest ways you can knock out routers on the internet because of exactly what he was saying on there. So, and also to your comment, and could you do the fixed? There's been big arguments in IETF for decades to try to actually get fixed length extension headers, and it's not really gone anywhere. So there's been a lot of work on this in the industry with it, but this is one of the risk areas in there. So pull your vendors in, talk to them about extension headers, point to his paper.
Yes, I agree with you.
I see no questions online as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for the insightful one. You couldn't be here, unfortunately, in person with us, but someday we hope that we will be able to meet you in person. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next speaker, Simon Baroy from Fiber at Home. He will be speaking on routing hijack in Bangladesh.
Thank you, Afifa. This is Simon from Bangladesh. I'll just share a story which we encountered 2 months back. So very small story, but probably interesting for you. So this is a routing hijack story from Bangladesh. And network means problem. And you blame the network, you blame the network engineers, you blame the CTO, but network always means problem. But routing hijack has a huge backstory. Like from 2008, we started this routing hijack, and the hijack started with that YouTube incident you all know. Then every day routing hijack is going on. Then there are so many incidents you can find it out all the time in newspapers and route views, then BGP stream. So it's a problem. So these are some of the stories I found from 2021. Huge routing hijacks, BGP leaks. Every day it is happening. Some stories are coming to the news, some stories are not coming to the news. So let's begin. Let's begin to my story. One small ISP named Bangladesh Online with the AS number 9230 is running for last 20 years and doing very good in Bangladesh. One fine morning in 6th August 2022, early morning, their NOC found that some people their users are having problem. Some clients are not getting YouTube. Some clients are not some specific websites. And it is coming from a specific prefix. So they started to dig down what is happening with that prefix. They thought that it might be a routing issue, but They checked in the looking glass, more or less the famous looking glasses, but they found, okay, fine, it's good. But at 11 a.m., on that same day, they found one of their prefix with a /24 length is announced by Singtel. I'm sorry that I'm standing in Singapore and I'm telling this against Singtel. So this is announced by Singtel. It's very interesting. Singtel is one of the biggest ISP, and from the 2096, we're supposed to have a VSAT links to Singtel, and we always know Singtel is our upstream. So it happens, and ROA was fine, IRR was fine, everything is okay, but the prefix was announced by Singtel. 7473 was the AS number. The problem is that certain looking glass is giving different kind of answers, because certain looking networks are dropping the invalids, some are not dropping the invalids. So different looking glass are giving different answers. But when we see the APNIC portal is specifically showing that it was hijacked, and the hijack was done by 7473. Hurricane Electric, one of the famous sites, same report. You can see the RPKI and ROA, everything was done from 9 to 30, but still it is hijacked, and the service provider, the ISP users are getting disturbed. So that is mean it is propagated all over the world. RPKI RIPE portal giving the same information. So what to do now? Big question for us, because we are living in Bangladesh, a small country, and the hijack was done from Singapore. We don't know what to do. We started the ISP, they started to send mails, and from 12 p.m. they started to send the first mail to Singtel. Then the second mail went to Singtel again. Then the third mail. First response came from Singtel is on 10th August at 4 p.m. asking for a circuit ID. Now, circuit ID means earlier days when we connect with the network, usually we connect with the SDH link, STM4 1664. Then we have a circuit ID when anyone connect to Singtel directly with a ID, like kind of like a customer ID. Singtel was asking for a customer ID, but this ISP is not directly connected with Singtel. How can they will give a customer ID? So they try to mention it to Singtel, they try to convince them, but no. Again, the second response again coming from Singtel, again for asking for a customer ID, but this is not possible because this small ISP is not directly connected to Singtel. Now what to do? They send a mail to APNIC. Please, APNIC, help us. But APNIC send a usual mail. You can find a contact details from your WHOIS report. Now I'm asking to all the APNIC guys, if anyone is here, a 20 years old ISP is asking a help to APNIC not to get this response. Because they already know that's who is the WHOIS person, they try to contact to the WHOIS people, but they are not getting any kind of response. That is why they are asking from help from APNIC. Probably APNIC could give us some better response, or probably APNIC could give some response to this Singtel. Probably, I don't know, but probably they are asking for a bigger help from APNIC. So no one is replying, no one is picking up the call. Then they started to broadcast the message on Twitter and LinkedIn. Probably, we don't know what is happening. On 11th of August, the ISP noticed that in the morning that everything is solved. After 21 mails, 45 calls, 25 calls are international calls, it was solved. But nobody gave us the information what was the reason. Is it done by a mistake? Is it intentionally done? No information. These are the details. 6th August, it was hijacked. They started mailing. It was in Singapore, it was holiday. 7th August, they started doing phone, email, no response. 8th August, no response. problem is that in 9th August, there is a special National Day of Singapore, then also that was in holiday. So 3 days on holiday, 10th August, they started to request on LinkedIn and Twitter. In 11th August, it was resolved. And 13, we got a surprise. I will bring the surprise later on. So after, you can see, after 6 days, it was resolved. But the problem is that 3 days were holiday in Singapore. Probably that is the reason, because no one was picking the call or no one was seeing the email. So what is the solution? I just found that manners give us emphasize on one thing, that is coordination. In this thing, we found coordination is one of the biggest issue, and that is why manners, the third action point in manners was coordination. So what is coordination and why manners, when the network should join manners? Because this coordination is not only impacting the network engineers, it is impacting the CEOs, CTOs, on all the C-level officers, because service is impacting. That is why coordination is very important for all the networks. Also, there is an observatory. Why I am bringing the observatory? Because from the observatory, anyone can get the old report, what is going on in the network. So let's say if the CTO or the high-level officer of Singtel want to know what is going on in the past time, like on 6th August, they can easily get it from manners. I don't know, they are not a manners member, so that is why probably they are not getting this kind of report, but this could dig down a problem very easily. Also, they will get some conformance report so that they can easily understand what is going on in their network. So learning from this small story, we have to drop invalids. If any network operator is not dropping invalids, they should start right now. And obviously, we have to update our whois data periodically. Why I'm saying periodically? Because in this story, that ISP, they called all the whois numbers, they send all the whois mails, but they are not getting any response. They got a response. My next question, next number is that when you are sharing any number in your whois, don't share any number which is going to an IVR or any call center. Please give any number who will be picked by a man, not a robot or not any IVR. So make sure you do that, because it's a problem. It's not a problem which is only in Singapore. It's not a problem only in Bangladesh. It's an international problem. So IVR will not solve that problem. And next thing is that incident and abuse ticketing should be done by not by any kind of circuit. It should be done by that incident, that report, because you will be not connecting to all the operator or layer 3 operator in the world or tier 3 operator in the world. So you have to make your ticketing system based on your incident or abuse reporting. Also, inform the community about the incident. Still now, the ISP asked at least 3 times to Singtel what happened. Probably it's a mistake, because a operator like Singtel, a big operator like Singtel can do this kind of thing. It could be a misconfiguration, but they should inform this to the incident, to the community, what was happened. And also, last but not the least, you should have a secondary channel. It could be by manners, it could be by any kind of NOG, it could be this kind of event. So if you should have a secondary community channel where you can build up this coordination. So last but not least, I told about the surprise. On 13 August, we get a response from Singtel, and they said, our routing table is clear, there is no hijack. So this surprise we got from Singtel, but still Singtel couldn't give us any kind of report that what was happened. Thank you, everyone. And thanks to Ball Online who shared this report.
My God, that was insightful, right? I mean, you learn a lot from the real life stories than the theories. No questions? Can you come to the...
Hi, thanks for sharing your experience. And I'm Vidya Sagar. I'm from India. I'm from Computer Emergency Response Team. Okay, you have mentioned your learnings, and have you set up any proactive monitoring mechanism so that you can get to know when someone else is advertising your prefixes, so that you can proactively monitor things, because you came to know about the incident because there was some issue with your customers. And here the issue could be very large. Someone might be doing it for malicious purpose. They are rerouting the traffic. It could be a man in the middle. It could be way worse.
I think you can use it because it's a prefix kind of hijack kind of issues. I think you can use a tools called Bgp Alert that could give you an alert.
No, I'm asking you whether you have set up any proactive monitoring mechanism, because
Bgp Alert.
you're doing that now.
Yes.
Okay.
So Bgp Alert can solve your issues.
Do you have a suggestion of which tool to use?
Yeah, that's possible. Like, I mean, you can go to the Hurricane HQ, and there are other BGP looking glasses. You can maybe having peering relationship with the other ISPs maybe, and you can see what advertisements they are receiving, and you can see whether your prefix are in there advertised by some other entity, some other ASN that is not meant to be.
But that is not proactive. Like you can check like periodically, but it cannot give you an alert.
Yes, you can check the anomaly, right?
Yeah, we can, right? That is why like we have APNIC Knox is there, Dash is there, then RIPE that has a good site. So
Okay.
stat.ripe.net.
Oh,
So
you have a security operations center now?
No.
No.
We are a network operator, so we
No,
don't.
I mean, even ISPs will have security operations centers.
Some ISPs have. Yes,
Okay.
they have SOC. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question's very quick. Obviously, I'm Terry, the red team guy. I love your t-shirt. Where do I get one?
Sorry. Yeah.
I love your t-shirt. I want to get one.
You have to ask Cisco. Yes, this is from Cisco.
Barry Green from Akamai. One question to follow up. We don't have tools in the internet to do the monitoring. So by asking somebody and pushing somebody, do your BGP monitoring for hijack, the best tool you can actually get right now commercially is from Kentech. Okay. We used to have some other commercial tools out there, but there was not a sustainable model because people don't subscribe to them, right? So they were shut down through different acquisitions and stuff. RIPE has something you can use, and you can set up scripts to kind of monitor with it, right? Like, so like Akamai, we kind of build our own scripts, but they're to go on and pushing somebody and say, do this. They don't have the tools to monitor for the hijacks, right? So that's one thing to point out with it. It's unfair to put like pressure on a small ISP to say, go do these tools with it. So that's, and that's something I know Manners has been thinking that should we build something like that. Question though on Manners is on your list of things in there, my experience of working with hijacks is to reverse the entire list. Number one on the list is have very solid, good relationships in a NOG. And I emphasize everybody here, if you run a network, get part of the NOGs here in Asia Pacific, because the first place I go to when there's a hijack, the first place Akamai goes to when there's a hijack is we start popping to all our NOG peers, right? That first. And someday Manners will participate, but Manners has been pointing people to the NOG. So you kind of reverse the list. That becomes number one, is those relationships, because holidays happen, you got on a Slack, you got an email list and say, help, in your language, local, who do you know at Singtel? And it goes around and then you find the right person.
Thank you very much.
During a holiday.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you. Maz.
Yes, Yoshinobu Matsuzaki from IIJ. This is a comment. So I have a similar case in Japan as well, and I helped them as an ISP to solve that issue. So from my experience, you can ask them help from the local community of the ISP. So probably if you can have a friend in the SG NOG community, probably you can ask them for help. That helps a lot.
Yeah, Maz, that's a good one. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's good. Goes to Barry. Yeah.
Yeah. To get to his point, there's a reason why, even though I don't speak Japanese, I'm on the Japanese NOG and I file it away, because every now and then, maybe once every 2 years, I need to like post a note and post it in English, and then people kind of, we work it out. So you can be part of other NOGs. That's open up. So if you're in the region, right, you be part of SDNOG, you part of Malaysian NOG, you part of BDNOG, SA NOG, right? You just sign up to all the different NOGs. They're open that way so we can collaborate with each other. Yeah.
And this is a great opportunity for us to expand our personal relationship.
Thanks.
I'm trying to be a little polite here, but we have a story of how a group of people and maybe a few thousand customers and users were impacted strongly. And we are advising, giving you lots of advice on what you could have done, but you were neither responsible for the problem, right? You could have set up BGP alerts and you would have known 3 hours in advance. Instead of waiting till 11 a.m., you'd have known at 7 a.m. that you were hijacked. Would that have changed anything? I don't think so. Right? Instead of your hijack being resolved at 8 p.m. on Thursday, it may have got resolved at 5 p.m. on Thursday, but it was still, you still have lost 5-6 days. My first thing. My second thing is that there are a number of victims here. The end users are victims. The ISP is a victim, right? Hosting services are victims. And the only person who is not affected by this is the person who is affecting this, who's causing this. I don't see any advice being given to Singtel here, right? I mean, it's very nice for me to give you advice. You could have done this. You could have joined NOGs. You could have reached out to SGNOG, which is a very, very low volume. But what if it was an ISP in Mali? How many NOGs can you be a member of? And Singapore is small enough that we have a SGNOG. Many countries have got city level SGNOG. You could have done all that, but the only person who we are not giving advice to is the guy who broke your system, right? So I have a feeling that the entire thing is like we have admitted the fact as a community that we will muddle along. We will do the best we can because people will do things and we can't talk to them. So we might as well as do what we can. It's not, I don't see this as amenable to a solution. And on the issue, so on the issue of asking for circuit ID, this is where I'm sympathetic to Singtel because half of us have come up through tech support. And what is the first thing when someone calls us? Have you tried restarting your machine? And the guy says, I can't connect. Which version of Windows are you using? And the guy says, I'm using Linux. No. Which have you turned on your McAfee antivirus? So first level support is that.
Thanks for your comment. Yes, I really agree with you. We just fall into the, probably I should say, the bureaucracy of the escalation of metrics of the Singtel. And we tried to ask Singtel so many times and we didn't got any response. The last response we got is on 13 August, which we said, and they just completely denied that there is no hijack. So it's kind of like a escalation bureaucracy, I should.
And the evidence has disappeared from their looking glass.
Yes.
So it's your word against mine.
Yeah. Just so people know with that, RIS, another RIPE tool, Routing Information System, RIS gives you your history, right? So you can go back and say, okay, here's your routing history. It's all right there. And you can do a replay of the entire routing hijack through there. So that's one of the other tools maybe to point out to people.
Yes, Dada.
Vivek from APNIC. So I looked up this help desk ticket. So I just want to clarify, we did get in touch with Singtel. We made them aware and asked them to stop. So it was not just the response you showed.
Yeah, but I think the ISPs didn't see that side of APNIC. Thank you for that one. Thanks, everyone.
So one more question from online, that is by Shubham Saran. As you said that APNIC response should have been different in this case, what's your expectation?
Oh, okay. Already Vivek already addressed that one. So already behind the screen, APNIC already talked to Singtel. That is the ISP's request. Thank you. Thank you, Shubham.
Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Aftab Bhai.
Thank you, everyone. I mean, this is interesting. I think this is the first time LinkedIn was used for anything other than spamming. So yeah, perfect use of LinkedIn, I would say. Thank you, everyone, for the presentation. We were bang on time until a hijack story came up, and then we ruined everything. So we have literally 5 minutes, and I have 6 slides, well, 3 questions only. So I'll go quickly through that, and if I can find the clicker. Yep. So an year and a half ago, I mean, few months ago in the COVID era, we asked a couple of questions through survey to our community. There were 3 questions. One was related to the ROA notification. This is the question, and we got the responses. The issue was, I'll try to summarize as quickly as possible. When a route object is created, you do get a notification via email. But when you create a ROA, you do not get any notification. So we were asking the community if you are interested in a notification, and predominantly the survey responses said, yes, we would like to have a notification. But of course, there was another batch of people saying that it should be opt-in rather than they can opt out, which makes sense because we get a lot of notification from the route objects anyway. So APNIC responded with that, and I'm glad they are working on something. The routing status alerts is already in Dash. By the way, if you are an APNIC member, you can log into the Dash. It's a very nice tool. So that's a free PR for the Dash. Second question was, if you answered yes in the previous one, would you like to have, how do you like to have those notifications? Through a webhook or through something else? Mostly people said, well, webhook or much better than emails, because then you can connect it to whatever system you want to, whether it is Slack or Telegram or anything else you're using. Again, 47% people said yes, webhook is important. No, some said email notification are fine. So this is, I would say, a very promising update from the APNIC. They are working on the notification platform, allowing users to configure how they receive those alerts, whether it could be email, SMS, which I don't want, but a Slack notification as well. Of course, the member asked for the SMS as well. So of course, there will be a feature available, whichever you want to pick in. So I think that is going in the perfectly right direction. And the last question was the API. We have discussed it so many times that how you can create ROAs and of course delete it. Mostly people said yes. There were some no's, and some said, well, we need to understand how you want to implement the API. There was some discussion in the previous meeting, but yes, most of the responses were yes. And if you haven't seen this response from APNIC yet, go and you can have a look at the blog post published by, I think it was Tom, a couple of months ago in March. The API is still in beta. Yes, it's still in beta. You can test it. And of course, they will be implementing it soon. So that is a quick update on the survey responses. APNIC Secretariat and the services team is listening to your comments. So if you have more comments or concern, you can reach out to them directly or through our mailing list. That's all from the Routing Security SIG. If you have any question, concern, you can ask right now, or you can post it on the mailing list. We do provide a feedback to the mailing list after the event, so you can provide your comment through that as well. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining the session. From myself, Aftab Siddiqui, Afifa, and Dima, who was there sitting all along. Thank you so much, Dima, for joining the call as well. Hopefully, we'll see you next time in Manila. Till then, thank you so much and have a good day.
perdiendo entre las sombras, desvaneciendo. Siempre otro despedir, a veces más lento, demasiado rápido para mí, siempre tan fuerte mi necesidad por ti. La primera mirada que yo vi fue la misma que me diste en aquel despedir.